you?
I am doing well. Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Such a pleasure to meet you and speak with you.
A pleasure to meet you as well. I've been looking forward to this. I know our first go around when you had said, okay, 9 p.m. And I thought, oh my gosh, that must be
Yes,
such a long day. And then
yes,
we had to
yes.
change it because you were still working even into 9 p.m., which just says so much. And I want to get to that, just how you balance it all, work and parenting and the whole bit. But tell me, how are you? How was Grenada?
Grenada was wonderful. I'm suffering from I miss it so much. It felt so good being out there, especially since I haven't been in so long and I had the time of my life. And then I came back to New York and I was like, oh, I have to figure out how to continue to create some sort of paradise here. I always tell myself that because I'm going to end up just moving to Grenada and living there for the rest of my life. But Grenada
Right.
was just as I remember it, so beautiful, so serene, so just untouched, and I love it there. So I carried some of that. If you can see, I'm super tanned. I carried some of that sunshine with me,
I
and
am
just
seeing it.
getting back used to New York life, the hustle and bustle.
So when you go to Grenada, is it that you're with family and you're just allowed to be? What is it? Or is it that you're able to relax in a different kind of way? What is it really for you when you go there?
It's actually both. A lot of my family is there, so it's really like a. I don't like to call it an escape, but sort of just like an escape where you're allowed to just be and just be free. There's something freeing as soon as you hit the plane, where none of the things that matter during your everyday life in the city
Mm,
matters there. It's like you shed all of that and you're allowed to just be at your purest. And I feel that when I'm there, it's like everything changes. The things that I think about when I'm here is definitely not the things that I think about when I'm there. And it's not so just like you have to wake up at this time, you have to do this by this time. It's more about
mm,
you want to get up, you get up early, you watch the sunrise, you take a walk to the beach. Everyone's
yeah.
saying good morning, everyone is greeting you with a smile.
Oh,
Um, and I'm not sure why it gives me that feeling, but even people who have no roots there feel the same way. So
yeah.
I say that it's something in the air. And then it's just my family there, a lot of my grandmothers there, my uncles are there. It feels like that's my home. It feels like that's where I feel most at peace and at one. So those are like some of the things that I can use amongst many other things. Of course, there's the beautiful beaches and the sunshine and the palms and all that stuff. But more than that, it's a feeling, just a freeing feeling that me and others have talked about feeling when they arrived in
Right.
Grenada.
Right. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I always say there's shades of green I see in Grenada that I don't see anyplace else. Like when you're just
Yes.
looking at the lush person, thinking, look at that. I mean,
Oh,
it
tell me
just,
that.
oh my gosh, and you just, for me, I keep saying, I hope, although we're inviting others to join, that it doesn't get to a place where it becomes very the touristy feeling where they basically get the impact of having all of the footprint there and lose some of the essence of what really makes it very special, because it certainly has been able to hold on, to that piece of serenity and
Yeah.
peacefulness.
I absolutely, I've had that conversation with just quite a few people. Of course, I promote Grenada and I talk about Grenada. And you want to, of course, build up a place like Grenada as much as you can. I don't necessarily think that it's possible for it to lose its specialness. Um, and I just like I don't know that it's it's something that we have to think about as we try to promote, a place that we love and as we talk about. But some people, that is concerns for some people. Like, I hope it doesn't turn this way or turn that way. And I don't know if it's possible. Like, I feel like it can hold on to what makes it beautiful and what makes it special. And I feel like it'll
Is that
always
because
be like
it's from the
a
people?
secret place.
Why
I
do
think
you
it
think
has a lot
that?
to do with many things. I think it's the people. I think it's just the spirit of the island, and I don't necessarily like having more people come there won't take that away. The word will only travel. I don't necessarily think. I mean, and of course, I'm not. You never know when you're like building an economy or building a place, like what happens or different things like that. But I feel like it's special on its own. It's not. It's
Right.
like we didn't give it its specialness, so we cannot take it away.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And of course, tell me how. I mean, you weren't born there, but that's your heritage, right? I
Yes.
mean, your
Yes.
family's from there. How has it shaped who you are today? How has it impacted and influenced your life?
So that's like such an interesting question that I don't, I spent my summers I spent my summers in Grenada, going back there. And I guess I didn't realize till I got much older how it shaped me and how it shaped the woman I am and the woman that I want to be. And it's so hard to really put that into words, but I do know that being from Grenada and being able to say I have heritage in Grenada, that gives me some sort of pride and some sort of confidence in myself and in my work. I remember saying one time, in a big city, you tend to feel lost and not seen and maybe almost invisible. And you have to tap in to what makes you special. That's a question, that's a conversation that you have. Like, why am I special? Why am I here? What was I born to do? And for me particularly, I related it to Grenada. Like everything that I am, everything that when I started to do just that search within myself, I related all that back to Grenada. Like, this is where I come from. This is where my roots are from. This is what my grandmother has built. This is what she has done on this island. This is where my mother has come from. It all ties back to there. And yeah, it's true. I wasn't physically born there, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like when you land, it feels like I've arrived home. It feels like I am supposed to be doing, it feels like I'm supposed to be there. I haven't yet figured that out, although all of that is in the works now. It feels like I'm supposed to be there. It feels like I'm supposed to be working from there. It feels like I'm supposed to be building from there. It's not a feeling I can so much explain, but I know when I get there, it's like when the key fits in the door, it just feels like this is your ground. And it's why I came up with the term, like, I know I'm the daughter of the soil. And that is a huge title. And I don't even understand within me of myself all the things that I'm supposed to do. But I feel like I'm getting it piece by piece, and I'm slowly building what that looks like. Even just doing this interview with you and being able to speak about how my work is inspired by Grenada and how I'm inspired by Grenada and how I even just relate to it. So it's still a learning process for me, exactly all that I am and all that it means to me. But I hope that I continue to be open to that and just kind of following the path. Because yes, I'm being intentional, but also there's a path unfolding for me as well.
So it sounds very much like you're on a journey. I know you said when you search within yourself. So when did this particular journey start, and what's inspiring the journey? What's the catalyst for this particular journey and where it's leading you?
I feel like it started around maybe 2017. is when I really got just really that strong feeling of I have to do some work in Grenada and I have to work with the Grenadian people. And then I ended up meeting some really special ladies who saw the Caribbean as a place to explore. They saw the Caribbean as untouched, the Caribbean as a whole. They saw it as something that was untouched, and they felt like there are so much people, just particularly in our industry, that come from fashion. So much style is and I don't want to say taken, but so we inspire so much different things, and no one talks about it. So
Yes.
I made the decision that I'm be Noel and I'm Grenadian. I made the decision to speak about that. And then you started to meet people, well, oh, I do this and I'm from Jamaica and I'm this and I'm from Trinidad. And we wanted to make people feel comfortable to do that and to speak on that and to show how that influences their work. So it was then where I decided, what makes me special? I'm of Caribbean heritage. That's what makes me special. That's going to be my platform to stand on. That is how I'm going to move forward. And I had been in fashion for some years, but I was kind of like a fish, just not really, just feeling like I was trying to find my way, just feeling like I had a voice, but not knowing where it really was. And it was when I said, oh, I am this, and this is what's going to represent me, and this is what I'm going to move forward. I feel like that shifted my path. It shifted what people saw. It shifted what I represented for other Caribbean girls. And I even feel like I know a lot is happening, and it's creating, it's opening doors as well and inspiring people along the way. But it was really in 2017 when I just sat back and said, what am I? What everyone can make pretty clothes. What is special about what I'm doing? And you constantly ask yourself that because you never really arrive, right? It's like the journey. The journey is the best situation. It is the best part, like trying to figure things out, figure out when you get to the destination, sometimes it's not even all that it's cracked up to be because it's where you think you want to go. It's where you think you need to be. It's really the journey and the lessons that you learn throughout that journey that's really the most satisfying, but we never know that because we continue to go. So that's when I decided, this is taking a lot out of me. It has to mean something. It has to stand for something. It has to represent something.
No, that's wonderful. And I know you touched on fashion in the Caribbean that has, let's call it, inspired other people. I mean, we've spoken about in the past, it's been a conversation around the appropriation of ideas, whether it's from dance hall, fashion in Jamaica, that it's never attributed to the source, but it shows up on a runway. So, I appreciate your referencing that and saying, well, I will do something about it in this space. And your journey in this space as a Black woman, I'm sure has been quite an interesting one, because as much as we're at the forefront of fashion, we're there more so as consumers, or at least those of us who are known, it's more on the consumers end. We don't hear much about the ones who are actually creating. So what would you say has been the most challenging part of being in this industry for you?
Well, the most challenging, and I'm still living in that challenge. The most challenging is really trying to build something that can stand the test of time. And it takes many things to do that. And besides, you have the idea, besides having the resources to bring it to life, that's all that you have, right? It's like you have this idea, you have this thing that you want to build, but you need the resources to really make a splash, Like you can do your small thing among family and friends, but to really impact the industry in a big way, you need the resources to do that. And that is the most challenging aspect, and I assume with building any business, but particularly in fashion, your resources is so important. Your resources of cash, your resources of connections, your resources. There's many different resources that's needed. For me, I don't want someone to see this and feel like if I don't have the resources, I can't start, because I didn't have the resources and I still started anyway. And I started with what I had. And there comes some difficulty that even now I've done business the way I knew how at the time. And then as you grow, there is a right way of doing business. There is a proper way that you're supposed to do things that may not necessarily be accessible to you when you're starting out. So you just start with what you have. I would say, just to answer your question, it will be just having the right resources to create something that's bigger than yourself, to create something that can stand the test of time, to take a small business and turn it into a bigger business where you're serving people and connecting with people. And I still face this challenge today because, one, I'm a minority in several different fields. I'm Black, I am a woman, and then I'm a Caribbean woman. And sometimes you're at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to if there's loans or if there's any different thing that you want to have properties or different things that you want to have access to as you're going to build your business. So I would say that's the number one challenge is finding the resources to continue to build my business.
So, and that's interesting to me because you certainly have made a splash. You certainly are. I mean, talent is not a question. We see you moving in those spaces. So whether it's with LeBron or, Michelle Obama wearing, and yet you're finding that it's still the most challenging part of your business. Why would you say that is when the assumption would be, oh my gosh, you've arrived. So they'll be, knocking on your doors and pouring in the resources that you would need because obviously you've got the talent. Obviously you are unique in your space. So from a business perspective, it seems to be an obvious winner to pour money. Why would it still be a challenge at this point for you, do you feel?
It's so funny that you say that because I always say your business sometimes precedes you, like it looks, and I do want to be careful when I say this because Noel has grown tremendously, from where we started from to where we are to the things that we've been a part of, such as creating a sneaker for LeBron James and having Michelle Obama and Beyonce and Gabrielle Union and having people wear your clothes, which is amazing and puts you out there into the world. But behind all of that, there's still a real business, right? And you cannot go to a bank and say, oh, I created these shoes for LeBron James. Oh, look, Michelle Obama is wearing. In the financial world, that doesn't work, right? It's like when you want to get a bank loan or a business loan or you want to do different things, it's hard to use press as that. So it kind of happens where the business was bootstrapped, right? So we rebuilt it on our own, no loans, no infusion of cash in the beginning, and it was just simply making connections, making beautiful clothes, connecting with the right people, and doing that. But that's very separate from the building of the business financially. It's very separate from when you want to find different, like let's say for instance, a business manager. It's everything in the fashion business really takes a certain amount of resources. And when you don't have that, it becomes harder. It becomes harder to grow. It becomes harder. But your name is also out there and people know about you and there are people shopping with you and all that stuff. But you need something to keep the wheel turning that you may not have access to. So when I say that, it's like, yeah, your business, your name is spreading out there and you're working with high level celebrities, but there's also the business side that you would need to be on the same level. And people have to be willing to take a chance and invest in that and invest in your brand and invest in what you've built. And that is really hard to find in fashion where people are willing to take that risk. Like people will invest in tech and they'll invest in beauty. But when it comes to ready to wear, it's a tough business to really, it's a risky business as well, which is why it's a risky business where investors tend to say like, oh no, so you're building it as you go, you're building it on your own, you're collection by collection. You have to keep infusing your resources into the business to keep it turning. So all that stuff is great, like all the shiny things, but there's so much that happens behind the scenes that people don't really get to see. So it just looks as if you've arrived and you've made it where on the internal side, there's so much going on. There's so much that you have to do, which is why you're like, call me on a Wednesday at 9:00 and I'll still be at work because there's so much grit and grind that people don't get to see.
Have you been able to benefit from the fact that Black people are now in season? So we've had, based on Black Lives Matter and what happens with what happened with Floyd George, for example, there's been an awareness and a very conscious and deliberate effort for people to reach out to Black-owned businesses. Have you been able to benefit from that in a meaningful way, just based on the current right now?
Absolutely. The Black Lives Matter movement took my business to another level. It opened doors on another level. It put us in conversations. That movement really changed the trajectory of just not my brand, some of my friends' brands. Just even the way Black women are right now and how their self-care and how they're wanting to be a part of luxury and how they want to buy luxury from other Black women. That is what has me in business right now. That is honestly what's lifting me up at this very moment and taking me to new heights. That is what's opening certain doors for me. And I even think a lot of brands, brands run by Black creatives are experiencing that we are being lifted up by this movement. There's a lot of conversation. There's now a lot of doors opening that probably were closed before. So now we're really knocking on the door for resources because at this very moment, the moment we're in, they might say yes. You still have your other challenges, but right in this particular moment, our time is now. And we have to seize that opportunity. And especially, Noel went insanely viral during that time because there was so much people saying, well, where are the brands that have been doing this, that's run by Black creatives? Where is this? Where is that? And our name keeps coming up. It even showed me something and filled me with pride. Our name keeps coming up because we've been doing the work and we've been creating great product and we've been making women feel beautiful. And that speaks for something, which is now we're using that. We're using our portfolio and what we have done to kick down some more doors because our time is now. So that absolutely has changed the trajectory of, it was kind of moving like this and now it's like soaring,
Absolutely. No, that's fantastic. And, what you said is important as well, because you were ready for the opportunity when it came. right? And that's an important thing for us to be able to recognize as well. We need to be ready. We don't know when that particular door will present itself. So if we have everything lined up, we're in a position where we can now enter. I'm curious, when I think of your fashion, and it's so beautiful. I spoke to somebody, I was trying to go, oh my gosh, a part of what's so appealing is just that loose, comfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, it's elegant, but I can be wearing this while I'm doing whatever in the house and step out, for dinner and so on. It's so feminine. It feels and looks absolutely beautiful. And I would like to speak to you just about the part with how we're socialized into viewing beauty, what is beautiful. And especially, your product line is for all women, but it speaks to me particularly as a Black woman. And I would like to know where you land on when we talk about, say, the objectification of women, or the idea that we're to feel beautiful, but society says to us, this is what beauty looks like. And we're all socialized into believing a lot of that. It takes a very conscious effort for many to look in the mirror and see beauty when it does not fit in with the standard of what has been taught to be beautiful. Where does your sense of design and creation land when you're trying to balance, and if you try to balance that idea of beauty and fitting with that, and what might be outside of what we've been taught is beautiful, and also bringing in the political piece of that with when we talk about the objectification of women and showing particular body parts and so on. Where do you land on all of that?
I really, that's a great question. And I wonder if I've even thought about it in that manner. My thinking for me was more about redefining, like we're taught something over and over and over, and then we start to believe it. But somewhere inside, there's like, why is that sexy and this is not? Why is that beautiful and this is not? And why is this? And it started for me with unlearning and relearning. And it started saying, well, when I put something on, what makes me feel beautiful? What makes me feel special? What does that look like? And I've always learned, like you've just always heard, when a woman puts on a tight-fitting dress, that's when she's sexy, or that's when she's beautiful, or that. And I wanted to stand up against that, and not so much in a political way, just in more like just me personally, myself. Like, I feel beautiful in a loose flowing robe. I really feel empowered. I feel like I can move. I feel just effortless. And to me, I relate that back to defining your own terms, like creating the woman that you want to be, creating the life that you want, and using clothes to tell that story. Because the clothing is just my vehicle, right? It's like a way for me to express myself without even having to use words. It's like, this is my love language. This is how I communicate. This is how I relate with others. And I don't want to say that I thought of it in that way, like I was going against the grain or I just went with like, I feel this feeling, and I know other women have to feel this feeling as well. And let me create this thing and see if it does make other women feel this way. And it really started in a simplified way of just saying beauty and power and luxury is defined by how things make you feel, not by what other people say it is. It's defined by the feeling you get when you're experiencing these things. And I really wanted that to soak in, and that I really wanted that to be the message that you have the power. It's in you. You have everything that is inside of you. Now tapping into it is another story, but you have it. And I feel like that's what's been taking off for Noel. It's like, you know, I have this thing where I say everyone is special, and I really, really do believe that. Now, whether you think you're special or not, that's another story, but everyone is, right? Everyone has their own thing that they're supposed to do in this world, in this universe. Everyone has their own path that's taking, and we're all like, there's things that when we bleed, we all are going to bleed red. There's things that let us know that we really are all the same. It's what you tap into or don't tap into, rather, that defines your path. And because I thought of it from that mindset, it allowed me to be able to create for others. It allowed me to let others enter into this sort of fantasy that I have in my head, that I realized, like, I can make this a real life. I can dress the way that I want. I can have the job that I want. I can have the life that I want if I make a choice, if I make the choice to do so. And that's really how I think of everything, even just my creation process, even just, and I don't know if I answered your original question, because I get so passionate with the thought that life is just simply a choice. Life is simply really what you make it. You have to choose that every day. And there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days, but you have to choose. You have to choose to dress up and show up for life. You have to choose your happiness. You know, you have to, it's a choice. It's not just going to just happen for you. It's a choice that you make. And I said to myself, I said, well, if it's a choice that I have, then I'm going to choose this. You know, if it's a choice that I have, then I'm going to wear this today because it's going to make me feel good. And when you feel good, how you communicate with other people, when you feel good, how you communicate with other people is impacted. And sometimes people think fashion is like this frivolous thing, but it's really one of the most powerful things. You know, it has power over our emotions and how we feel about ourselves and how we make ourselves feel. And for me, it's almost as if this is what I'm giving to the world. This is what I'm making women feel powerful and giving them the tools to show up and to show out the specialness that's already inside of them.
I love it. How do you tap in? Because you mentioned that it's a choice, right? It's there. It's for us to be able to tap into, and it's also for us to tap out of particular things. Mm-hmm. How do you, in a practical way, do that? Because I know we hear it. We hear the importance of positive thinking and the mantra, but then there's life. And the narratives that are out there, they're powerful. They're effective, they work. So when we say to someone, tap into the positive and choose to be positive today, we know that it takes quite a bit for that to happen. And you are obviously, so resilient. You've run the gamut of losing, right? When your business closed and you had to think, well, what now? And you were able to tap into that inner strength. That's something that you have, that fight that kept you going. How do you do that? What is it that you draw on in order to do that?
I draw on I'm a praying girl. Like, I am praying hundreds of prayers throughout the day, and the reason why I say hundreds, because there's so many things, life itself is like, so many things are happening. So I won't say like, oh, I'm always in a good headspace, or the only thing that I'm a praying girl. So the only thing that I can call on is like, my God, show me the way, guide me through this, help me make a decision. It's really, that's my way. Like, even now we have something going on that I have to make a decision about, and the answers are not coming to me. And I remember reading something this morning when it says, when you don't have the answer, be still. And I'm practicing learning stillness, and I'm practicing learning how to do that in the midst of chaos. So it is not, and I don't want to sound cliche, it is hard to be positive all the time. It is hard to just always have a positive attitude. You have to make the choice to how you're going to react, because things are going to happen. It's not so much to say like, well, I don't want to have any issues, or I don't want to have, no, you welcome the issues, because really when the issue is where you grow. You don't grow when things are going great. You grow when there's a problem that you need to solve. You have to go through critical thinking. You have to, so that has to happen. So I welcome that, because I know that's the only moment that I can grow. So it's really about finding, for me, it's prayer. For me, it's God. That's what I was raised on. For some others, there may be other things. There's meditation, there's stillness, there's music. I find so much serenity just within music, and it can be anything for others, but I know for me, when I wake up in the morning, that is the first thing I do, and it's the last thing I do, and then I do it in between every time it is needed during my day. And believe me, it is needed several times. Like, take a breath, right? Take a breath,
yes.
and be still, because it's all about how you react. It's really not what happened, it's how you react to it. So you have to, if not throughout about this time we've been speaking, if you notice, I believe in the power within myself, everything that's inside, everything. And of course, you'll have mentors and people that you talk to and people that you trust. But at the end of the day, there has to be a stillness that you can take within yourself to tap into what you're supposed to tap into. And no one can give that to you.
No, I agree. And in listening to you, because yes, there's a confidence that you exude. And obviously that's what you're able to use to get you through the challenging times, where, like you said, is where the growth comes from. As you're speaking, I'm listening, I'm looking at you, and I'm thinking, you're a mom, you are mom. And I would love for you to talk about being mom, and when all of this is life for you and you're doing and being, where is your parenting piece coming in? What does that mean in your world? The challenges, the blessings, and just making it happen. Because it on the surface, I know oftentimes people look at it, it's like, oh, things are going well, and we have no idea of what that balancing act, and I don't want to be cliche in saying balancing, it's not a 50-50 proposition, but it is living a life where you have to make all of these things fit, and you have to prioritize each and every moment. So talk to me about just being mom.
What's even harder than running a business? It's being a mom and running a business. I carry so much mom guilt on a daily basis, because you have to choose time, right? You have to choose. The time is, as a mom, is your most valuable thing. And I remember speaking to someone yesterday, my cousin who just had a baby, and I said, you're starting a new journey, right? With wanting to build yourself up and build your life up. And then you have a child, because you're going to find yourself choosing, do I stay and work these extra hours, or do I go home and be a mom? And at first, my thing was, because and not everyone has this choice. My family support, my mom, my aunt, my family support is so strong, and they understand the idea of being an entrepreneur, because I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So I have a great family support, where my child is just loved and taken care of. But I recently started to be conscious of my time, how much time I spend away from him, how much time I spend in the office. And I look at him and I see, like, he's 4 now. When did that happen?
Mm.
And there's a guilt that comes with that, where you feel, because when people say balance, I really wonder who has been able to balance
The
that.
balance.
Who has been able to give a business their all, or build something, anything, their all, and then also give it to their child, because in the Caribbean, when you come to build a life, you send your kids back home. Or when you come to build a life, you have a nanny. Or when you come to, so I always question, who has been able to really do it all. So I most recently made the decision, recently, like coming back from Grenada, I have to set hours. During these hours, I will give 100% to my business, and which I'm easily able to do. But during the hours with my son, can I give him 100%? Can I not answer the phone? Can I not look at emails? Can I not do that? And he is an amazing little boy. He's a character. He brings me so much joy and so much love. And when I look at him, I wonder, am I giving him enough time? And that is the challenge with being a mom and being a business owner. And I am pretty sure there's tons of people who have that mom guilt, when it's said, like, okay, you're supposed to be nurturing and you're supposed to be, but you're a tycoon and you have these big ideas and you have this ambition, that you just can't get rid of. Where does that come in? How does that fit in? So to answer your question, I have not figured it out. It is a daily decision every day when I'm just like, it's time to leave the office and go home and take Stone to the park or read him a book or just do activities with him. It is something that I'm telling myself is the most important, because I can't get it back. Because I'm going to wake up and then he's going to be 5 and then 6 and then 7. And yeah, I might have a thriving business, but in the grand scheme of things, what you have to ask yourself is, what's really important, right? What have you built? What kind of relationship have you built? And he calls me mom. He calls my mom mom. He calls my aunt mom. And I love that I'm able to have that support system, but I also want him to feel like I was present as well. Like I put time into him as well. And I also want to put time into him. I want to grow a beautiful human, but I have to be present and around to do that. So it is always a struggle for me, and I'm trying to manage both. I don't think that anyone ever establishes balance. Something always suffer, and it's just your choice of what suffers and what doesn't. So I'm not saying either, there's some people who may say, like, no, I'm just building this business and I'm building it for my kids and for my family. But sometimes when, you'll hear people grow up and they say, well, I just wanted your time. And when someone says that, it becomes, so that's my spiel. It's a work. It's definitely a work in progress on my end. And again, the same way I'm intentional with my business. I'm working on being just intentional with the time that I set aside, where I'm cutting myself off. Like, I cannot take this business call. No, I cannot take this meeting. This time is for our play dates and our activities. And now he started asking me. He said, "Mom, I want to go on an adventure." So now I have to plan adventures. And I have to figure out what that means and plan adventures. But it's not to add pressure to anyone or any mom, or give yourself grace, give yourself time, give yourself a way to learn what works for you. Involve your children in your business. That's also something that I'm exploring. Involve them in your business, involve them through and through your life, so they know when they're not with you what you're spending your time doing, and they understand the reason, and they understand hard work, and they understand sacrifice. as well.
No, I love that. And thank you for that very real and honest answer, because a lot of times I think we look and we think the other people have it figured out, right? And yeah, they're on top of it and not understanding the human element. Like you said, we're all human beings. And that piece that you talk about, the guilt, that just, it doesn't matter who we are as working women. There's that piece where it's the, am I doing enough, right? Because so much rests on us. So yes, you want the business to do well, because that's also building a legacy, which he will benefit from. It's also your commitment to the world and your purpose in this world. So to serve others and doing it through your passion of fashion, serving yourself, because you need to live your life and not someone else's, but you're also responsible for this precious life and what he becomes and everything about him. So how do you do that? And I think one of the things for me that I think works well is just to forget the supposed to, right? You're supposed to this and supposed to that.
Yes.
Because that comes up, right? And that's where it comes from. Oh, so I need to be doing it. It's like, no, let's stop with the suppose, right? Let's just stop with that first and foremost. The only thing I'm supposed to do is to be me and use my judgment to guide me through what is best, not the other voices that will come in for us, especially as women, to tell us what we're supposed to be doing, where we're supposed to be, what it's supposed to be looking like. And the communication piece of it, which I think you've hit on the key thing, showing them work, talking, right? I think there's so much we assume about our children and what they need from us and what they want and how it should look. When if we just communicate with them, we'd be like, yeah, no, that's fine, right? A lot of what they need to be packaged and presented to them in a particular way. You know, when we talk with them, it's like, no, this is enough, or I didn't need you to do that. There's a lot we feel we need to do. We assume they want that. And if we stop and ask them, realize it's more for us. That wasn't for them, right?
Yes, that's so beautifully said. Yes, exactly. You know? I was reading, I'm currently reading Diane von Fossenberg's book, and she mentions like treating her children like humans, right? Because sometimes we leave our kids out of so much because we think they're kids. They won't understand. They won't, they won't communicate, when really they have the simplest mind. We're the hard ones to teach.
Yeah. Very true.
We're the hard ones we're the hard ones. It's easier for them to understand and to involve them. Yeah. So it's difficult trying to live so many separate lives, trying to be a mom, trying to be a designer, trying to take care of yourself, and it's maybe finding a way, and I'm just having this thought as we're speaking, maybe finding a way to include it all. Like it's like intertwine it so it doesn't feel that like you have to be so many different people at different times. And before I went to Grenada, I took him to work with me, and he's intrigued. And he's intrigued the same way I was intrigued the first time I saw what a sewing machine can do, So maybe if we think about it in that way, that can change some things in the way that moms, particularly moms who are in business and moms who are interested in building a legacy. Maybe that's a great way for them to start thinking about it, and that will release a lot of the pressure. And that supposed to thing that you just said, it's like I got chills, because it's like, you're supposed to be this, and you're supposed to go to work and then come home and cook and clean, and you think about all these things that we were told that we were supposed to do. So you're measuring yourself up to just standards that may not work in this day and time, and it maybe worked once upon a time, but right now that it may not work. So again, it's about unlearning and relearning and creating. Well, not even creating a new standard for yourself, just being, just being and giving yourself the grace to be. Just being.
And I love what you're saying about bringing it all together, because why compartmentalize in that way?
Mhm.
We are one being. All of these things are aspects of who we are. And I think for our children to see that, it's also a gift to them so that they can end the pattern that exists with the expectations that we have. So if they're coming in and we're treating them, yes, like human beings, and they have a capacity much greater than we often assume to understand, and with a simplicity to take it in, I say, well, let's do that and to share, because the idea of showing vulnerability, the idea of saying, I don't know, the idea of saying, oh my gosh, I'm tired right now, give me 5 minutes, to show them that. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of times as parents, we're trying to protect them, or we think we're protecting them from it. So we always have to show them, okay, I think there's a space for us to be honest and authentic and show this is what this is like, right? Someday he's going to have a partner in his life. Someday he's going to be around other, women, and to see, okay, I get this. I get it intuitively because I was around it for so long. It wasn't hidden from me. So I think that's a gift that we can give to ourselves and our children, just to be very honest and to show the vulnerability, to show when we don't know, to show when it's a lot, to be able to say, this is a whole lot. And right now, I need a moment. And for them to know it's okay. They don't need to freak out. It's like, okay, so this is what that looks like. This happens. It happens, right? So
I hope people get to see this talk. You said so many gems. It's so true. And I really imagine that other women hearing this can relate to it and understand it and be inspired by it, because that is absolutely true. Just showing y'all that, like, we don't have to be everything and know everything. And, sometimes people, they're like, oh, you're running this successful fashion company, how or where? And sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes you were after one thing and then a mistake happened and it changed your path. And then, it's like a journey and everyone has to own. That's why I feel like you can speak to everyone, but at the end of the day, the answers are within yourself and everyone's journey. You can be inspired, absolutely, but everyone's journey is their path, and it has its own twists and turns, and we'll all end up in where we're supposed to be. But just knowing that, give yourself the grace. Really give yourself the grace and time to just be.
Yes. And I love that you're open to allowing it to take you, the journey to take you where it has to, right? That you're not frozen and it has to be this way. And that line between being persistent and knowing when to accept what's being shown to go another way, right? Sometimes we hold on too long where it has to be, I'm being persistent, I'm not giving up. And what we need to be doing is say, okay, I see you. This was my plan here, but okay, I'm going to make the curve with you.
Yes.
Where right? I have no idea.
Go with the
let's do it. Let's do it. There's a quote right from Martin Luther King Jr. where it says, faith is taking that step even when you don't see the whole staircase.
Yes.
Right? I'm going to
just
go.
Yes.
Exactly.
That is the perfect. That is the perfect quote.
Go with it. Yeah. So tell me, self-care. How do you take care of you?
Oh, wow, there's so many things. You know what I enjoy? I really, really, really enjoy music. I enjoy wine. I enjoy people watching. I enjoy writing. I enjoy quiet time. Even just, it's so funny, when we were in Grenada for my birthday, my mom got a massage for the first time ever. She has never gotten one ever. And she was just like, I feel like a weight has lifted off of me.
Wow.
And I said, there are things in life that's set up to do that. But you have to make the choice to indulge in it or not. And sometimes things, it's not about the money because you spend the money anyway. If your car breaks down, a disaster happens, you find the money to do what you have to do. So I really take joy in experiencing these things. Anything that can put a smile on my face, anything that makes me feel good. Sometimes it's simple things like just turning on my music. Sometimes it may be something like going to the spa and making a day out of it. But I find the time to always do that. Like at some, if it has to be something simple at some part of my day, let me just relax and listen to some music. Let me have a glass of wine. I am no longer willing to drive myself crazy. And then this is something that just came about in sort of more because I've had breakdowns along the path where I was just like just driving myself crazy. And now before I get to those points, I try to say, look at the grand scheme of things. Look at what life has become. Look at how everything works itself out. And do things, take time to do things that are just for you, outside of being a mom, outside of being an entrepreneur, outside of what is just simply because you like it. And that's horse riding. It's so many different little things that I've been indulging in lately that has just been a peace of mind for me. And you have to find the time to do that. And even sometimes self-care is not even, it can just be simply taking time to talk to yourself. Why am I taking the time? If someone wanted to know the simplest form of self-care, sometimes we do all these things like bubble baths or whatever, and it's like, but what about your soul? What about what about the work within? How do you take care of that?
Yes.
So if my advice to anyone with self-care is taking that time to talk, like how you would have a conversation, how I'm having a conversation, why do you feel this way? Having that conversation with yourself, anything that can put you in a headspace where you can think clearly. Because when you're distraught, you're making terrible decisions. Like you don't know it though. You think you think that is your true self making that decision, and it's not. It's your distraught self.
Yes.
It's your stressed self. It's your and those are two different selves. So quiet time, meditation time, praying time, listening to a melody, anything like that, anything of that, because that costs you nothing. Just sitting there and just going within yourself. And, I talk about that a lot because I needed that to get me through. I needed something that can calm the noise because the more successful you get, the more people that come around, the more noise that comes around, the more pressure that comes around. So I had to find something like, what is it that I can do that doesn't require a lot, just my time, to initiate self-care, to focus on self-care. And I think right now we're in a time where self-care is booming. More and more people are realizing that you cannot give to others unless you yourself are full.
Are full. Well said. Very, very well said.
And especially women, Black women, we're saying, I was saying that especially now, we're just like, stop. We're saying no. We're saying we are important. We are to be loved. We are to be full, and that is really, really going to take intention. And I think that's what we're doing now. The world is changing so much now. And I think that we are realizing our power and the power of operating from a place of where we're taken care of to then take care of. I think we operated where it's like everything outside of us is taken care of. Our children are taken care of. Our loved ones are taken care of. And you're feeling depleted. And I think people are realizing, like, no, I have to fill myself up. I have to do the things. I have to take care of myself. I have to treat myself better. Because once you start to do that, everything, the way you see life and the things that you say yes or no to and the decision that you make, all of that changes. So self-care is the number, like, that is so important. Like, mentally, I have to be mentally, before I can even think about balancing time between work and being a mom or this, I have to think about, am I okay? Am I good? Am I, what's going on here? So that's another important conversation. You should be having conversations with your God. You should be having conversation with yourself. Even before you step out of the bed and pick up the phone, how do I feel today? Am I feeling full or am I feeling low energy? You know, you should know this before you start to interact with other people, because energy travels, and boy, does it travel fast. So
yeah, and it's contagious, right?
It's also contagious. It's
right. You're getting other
contagious.
people's and they're getting yours. So make sure. Yeah. No,
I've been working out, all kinds of stuff. I have a list of self-care. Like, I have a list of, like, if you know, I don't get to do all of them every day, but I at least get to do one. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're saying make time, because we have to operate from a place that's full. And you're right. I think there's something happening now. I mean, COVID, which has had, you know, so many horrible things that came with it, it also came with opportunities. And I know when we look at, you know, our community, there have been opportunities here where for many people are seeing us for the first time, but many of us are also seeing ourselves for the first time and allowing ourselves to have the conversation we need to have with each other, but with ourselves, where we're stopping, like you said, and saying, hold up, wait a minute, and we're owning it, and we're proudly owning it. We're proudly stepping into it and saying without guilt, I deserve, I need, I will take. And it's been a heck of a time for us to get there. And I'm enjoying seeing how it's happening and how we're learning us, right? Because that's what's happening. Many of us are now learning about us. Many of us are now stepping into a space that guilt didn't allow us to step into, or this kind of idea that we had to be so humble. We couldn't even take a compliment or brag about who we are because, you know, remain humble. You don't want to get on your horse or act like, you know, who are you, right? So in the name of that, there's so much that there are spaces where we made ourselves small when we should have been larger than life. And now we're stepping out and saying, no, I am large. I am here and I'm claiming my space.
That space.
You know, and also just in the area of strength, because I know for a lot, especially in the Black community, where we talk about that strong woman in particular, you know, the strong woman, and it kills us, right? Because in the name of strength, there is so much that we feel we're supposed to do and things we're not supposed to do, and we don't complain and we take it on. And the bandwidth, yeah, I could do this. Yeah, I could do that. Yes, I'll do for the other. I'll do for this. But again, how much of it was about taking care of us, guilt-free, and making time. So I love what you've said about starting out your day with checking in, you know, where am I at? How am I feeling? Because you are the most important person. And the fact that you're starting off the day focused on the most important person and what you're going to put out in the world today. Where's my energy at? You know, how much can I afford to give? Who can I have in my space? Because there's some people that empower and lift, and there are others who drain. So if we know when we do the check-in, you know, today is not the day for this, or I need this, right? Then we can go to the source to get what we need in order to stay full, to replenish ourselves, and to ensure that we can continue to do and be and give and not be running on empty, right? So I love that you actually share that. So thank you. And you've been very generous with your precious time. Before we wrap up, I just want to ask you about Grenada and the festivals. They're your favorite because there are many. And also about your foundation. I'd love to hear about that and mentorship. So the festival first, because this we're talking about, Spice Isle that's coming up, the celebration, and all things Grenada. So I'd love to hear what do you love as far as the festivals are concerned, and do you have a favorite?
So when you say the festival, tell me what do you mean?
So there are a lot of celebrations down there. So they do like jab jab and so on. So just
okay, so carnival, yes.
The carnival. Like, what do you enjoy about it, and what's your favorite, if you have a favorite?
I wonder what do I enjoy? I, of course, take part in every aspect of the celebration. To me, because I am so into storytelling and love stories, it is so enjoyable to be a part of Juve. Like watching what people come up with, watching how they dress up, watching the story they want to tell, what they're imitating. It's just a sight to see. It's like if I bring friends to Grenada, I like them to experience it because it's just one of the craziest sights to see. There's no rules. You can see the wildest thing on the road. You can see the funniest thing. It's just, it just, to me, that's like an outpour of what goes on in people's minds. It's like, on that day, let's live in our imaginations. Let's drag a sewing machine down the road. Let's put on diaper. Like, it's just the craziest. You see the craziest things. So I love the freedom of expression. So I would have to say Juve morning is my favorite. And then after all of that craziness and where you just get messy and you just don't care. It's just, you're just enjoying the music, you're enjoying the road, you're enjoying the people. I love the idea of people going home, washing up on the beach, and putting on these elaborate costumes. So Carnival Monday, it's like that is, it's such a transition from what you see. One happens from 3 a.m. in the morning and the other starts later in the evening. So that is my favorite. And there's like things in between that I don't know if it's such as widespread, like White in the Moonlight, when you're like dancing in all white, but in mud. And there's so many crazy traditions that happen in Grenada, but White in the Moonlight is definitely an enjoyable one for me as well. So in regards to
tell me about that White in the Moonlight. So you're dressed in white?
So White in the Moonlight, you're dressed in white, and it either rains naturally or they wet the mud, you just dance. So by the end of the party, which is a gazillion hours, by the way, like you get there at 8 and you probably stay there till like 8 the next morning. Come in all white, but you leave in mud. Like you are muddied. I have pictures too on my Instagram where I brought some people. Like you're just dancing. Everyone's dancing. They're rolling around, just being crazy. I don't know who came up with it. I just know that every year around Carnival, it's called White in the Moonlight, and you dance in an open field that's filled with mud, and there's mud everywhere. So that's super fun as well for me.
I love it. That's
super fun. Yeah. What else? I think those probably are the most memorable and the biggest enjoyable times when it comes to celebrating and festival and the tradition. I did a photo shoot inspired by the jab. And it's so, because my grandmother, she's like, I don't like, she's all kinds of stuff. She doesn't enjoy it. And I'm like, this is the most enjoy. Like, I don't know if you understand the freedom of expression in that sense. I always tell her, but she was a part of the video. She gave like a talk on it. And I was just, maybe where she comes from, right? Like she wasn't allowed to indulge in that, right? Maybe her mom was just like, no, you can't go out Juve morning, because my grandmother was also
Mm.
Christian. So I don't know if my mom and them got to experience it in the same way that we do at
That
the
you did.
celebration, as during the summertime, you're in Grenada, and the way we experience it. But to me, I see it as like
So
a
tell
peaceful
me, for
expression.
those who might not know what Juve is, say talk about Juve mornings. What is Juve itself for those who may not know?
So Juve itself is really, again, what that is. It's, if we go back to a long time ago, it started off in slavery. It was a way that the slaves would dress up and put on these costumes to mimic their slave masters. I think over time it has grown beyond that, where it's just a freedom of expression. You know, it's a free it's a way, it's sort of like you're creating characters, and you're putting on tar and like all this stuff. It's more like storytelling. It means, you know, I know they do it in a lot of different islands, but people use it at a time to be political. People use it at a time just to have fun. People use it at a time just to indulge. So I think it means something different. But if we go to the root of it and where it started, it was dancing around fires, dressing up in these costumes, making fun of their slave owners. And it was like their party time, and what they did to make fun of and create some type of entertainment within, within their space.
Okay, so very rich history. Very
Yeah.
rich history. No, love that. Thank you. And your foundation, talk to me a bit about that, and what the foundation is about, why you started it, and how that's going.
So the foundation is something that we've been really, really working behind the scenes on to build up. I started it back in 2016, and it came from a place when I was a young girl, trying to build this business. I didn't really have anywhere to turn. So I decided that I wanted to be that person that I can show young girls like how to take your passion and turn it into a business. And I wanted to do it just like on a very small scale level, where I would go talk to girls in schools and I would meet young girls. And one in particular young girl, I took her in. She wanted to be in fashion. And a friend of mine had these programs that she started in school, where she would connect them with someone that she knew who was in the industry. And she connected her with myself, and she's still with me today, who you may know, you may have been speaking to, is Jasmine. And Jasmine she was young, and she was like, I know what I want to be, and I know what I want to do, and I want to be in the creative field. And I decided that the foundation would then, and the foundation is still very, it's still in the beginning stages, even though because we haven't tested it on enough amount of young women, but it's something that we're working on building it into, where it can just be a program where they come in and they learn skills, or they may already have skills, and we hone in on that and help them open and start their business. So we're trying to create a funnel like that. But for Jasmine, it was more of, she's been with me ever since. She's worked my right hand. She also has her own business now. And that's what I modeled it off of, like showing them how they can, because there's going to be so many people telling them how they can and why they shouldn't. So I want to be the person that's saying, yes, you can, and this is how. And I hope to be able to say, yes, you can, this is how, and let me help you get there. So that's what we're going into that's where we're building the foundation into, creating the resources so that we can give them, because that was something so hard for me to get along my path. Mm-hmm. So it's really just opening that window. And to be honest, before it was started, like talking to girls in school in the States where I am, and I know I still want to do that, but I also want to create something in Grenada where I'm creating a funnel as well for them, because I also feel like there's so many talented people on the island that probably don't have a way or don't see a way. So I want to be that vessel, since I am in both worlds and aware of what's going on. So I want to be that vessel. So the foundation, I tend not to talk about it as much, because it's like, it's something that I do in my heart. It's something that I really work on behind the scenes, and I really want to build it into something powerful. So I really want to give it its chance to develop, to really, really make impact and change in both Grenada and in my inner city neighborhoods as well.
Yeah, I love that you're looking at your journey and what has been challenging for you and what would have made a difference, and paying something forward to say those who come next shouldn't have to go through that, so they can start from another place that you're giving back. And I'm glad that you're speaking about it, although it's something, like you said, you're doing behind the scenes, because I think it's important for people to know that this is what leadership looks like. This is what giving back looks like. And I think it's important for them to see that particular model, that each one teaches one. So while we are going, we're taking someone with us or people with us. So thank you very much for sharing that. I appreciate that. And before we wrap up, just to say, what would you love for your legacy to be? And I mean, I think you're already building a legacy, but when you think of it, what would you like it to be?
I would really, what would I love my legacy to be? I guess at the end, like, if I could put it in the simplest form, I want people to know that you can, to know that she came and she made her life beautiful. And along the way, she made it beautiful for others as well, or rather showed others how they can. So I want people to sort of remember me as an alchemist in some form. And an alchemist is just someone who takes what they're given and creates gold from that. So I would like to, I imagine I'd find a more refined way to express that. That's a heavy thought, because you're involved in so many different things, and it's hard for you to see on a big scale. You're just taking little steps. But I imagine I would want to be like, if my son is like, well, Mommy, what did you do? And I would like to tell him I made people feel beautiful.
Oh, yeah. That's so beautifully said, and thank you. And I would personally like to say, I mean, you're living your legacy right now, and just your being, your way of being, what you do, how you give, both the tangible and how you give of yourself, the words today, that's serving as a rich legacy for many, because it inspires. It's showing people that they too can. And the fact that you are living it makes a very, very big difference. So I would personally like to say thank you for all that you are, all that you do, all that you're giving, and for so generously sharing of yourself in a real and authentic way. It's most appreciated. And I hope that we can continue this conversation. I know you're talking about the work that you're doing in Grenada, and with what we're doing here in Gemma, who we'll talk about it a bit later, but it's a part of building that legacy as well, and doing something for the young people in particular in Grenada, and to make a difference. So I am glad that you're there and that you're already making that difference. Love your fashion. Keep it up. However you keep it.
Thank you so much.
Keep giving. Keep it up. It's beautiful. It's one of those things. Just looking at the imagery, just looking at it, makes you feel good. Like I'm showing it to people, we smile. And I'm not even, thank you for that.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for the work that you are doing. Thank you for one, just wanting to hear my story and moving on to spread it. I I don't take that lightly. Again, it's all these things that showing me I am on the right path, and the women that I'm getting to meet, women like yourself, the women I'm getting to interact with. It is an honor to hear you say those words. Just saying how it inspires you and how it makes you feel, because it is. It feels good knowing that you're doing the right thing and it's working. So thank you again for having me. Thank you for your time. And I can't wait to see, I can't wait to see all that you guys are doing and continue to speak and see how we can work together.
Looking forward to it. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
You too.
And please stay elevated. Bye for now.
Bye.